Hey writers, welcome to the Writing Lab with Eva Pohler. Hi, I'm Eva Pohler, a USA Today best-selling author of over 45 novels, a writing professor of over 3 decades, and an editor. And today I want to talk to you about something crucial: editing. Now, I understand the temptation to save money and to try to do it yourself. One reason is that brains don't see what's actually there. We tend to see what we want to see or what we think we've written, and so we often don't catch our own mistakes. In fact, a psychologist by the name of Tom Stafford notes that our high-level brain processing generalizes the meaning and makes it easy to miss typos in our own writing. In fact, in the early part of my career, I had an audiobook narrator who was also an editor, and she would send me things that had somehow slipped by my editor. But it would take me several times to see the error. She'd email them to me and I'd read the line and I'd think, there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, sometimes 5 or 6 times before I'd be like, oh, now I see it. And I don't think it's because I'm stupid. I think it's because my brain is seeing what it thinks it wrote. And I think that's true of all of us. In fact, you've probably seen memes going around in social media where, you're challenged to see if you can read it. And, the letters and all the words are all scrambled, but yet you can still understand what it says because the brain somehow sees it in spite of the errors. In fact, the phenomenon is called typoglycemia, and it shows how we can read jumbled words as long as the first letter and the last letter of the word are in the correct places. Now, I know this suggests that readers would probably also be able to understand what we write in spite of our errors, but it truly does undermine your credibility as a writer if those errors are there. The readers can read it, but they're still disrupted by the errors, they're disappointed by the errors, and it can undermine their faith in you and their willingness to read another book by you. So even though people can still usually understand what you mean in spite of errors, it's best that they don't exist in the first place. So now, I don't mean to suggest that we shouldn't do any self-editing. Absolutely, we need to self-edit. In fact, I always recommend a book called Self-Editing for Fiction Writers by Brown and King. You should write your draft, then you should edit it, then you should edit again, and probably edit again, but then send it off to at least one professional editor, possibly more, depending where you are in your writing journey. As a new writer, you might want to hire a developmental editor, and this is someone who looks at the big picture things, and I discussed this in a previous video. We're talking about things like plot, character development, pacing, point of view. They might not spend any time on commas and periods and those kinds of things, but they're looking at the bigger picture of the book, and you want someone early in your career to do this for you. But once you've been doing it for a while and you really have an understanding of pacing and plotting and character arcs and so forth, you still want someone to do either some line editing or some copy editing or some proofreading somewhere, depending on where you are. And you might get different people to do those different types of editings. Now, for line editing, we're talking about looking at it more on the sentence level, how your sentences are flowing, if they are clear and consistent, are there a lot of repetitions of the same words and phrases and these types of things, whereas copy editing is looking more at grammar, punctuation, those kinds of things. And then proof reading is something that is like the final look. After the book has already been edited, proofreading is just looking for those, missed typos. Now, if you're ready to level up and you're looking for an editor, I happen to be one, and I'd love for you to check out my website at evapohler.com. I'll have a link in the description below. I offer all of those services, and I'd be more than happy to work with you. In fact, I'd be excited. I thoroughly enjoy editing and love it almost as much as I do writing, believe it or not. I didn't think I would, especially after so many years of grading student essays, but I actually do love it. So anyway, I hope you found this video useful. If so, please give it a like. Share it with your friends. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And don't forget to grab a free copy of my guide called The Science of Story. I'll have it linked below. And that's it for now. Until next time, happy writing. Bye-bye.